How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Twisted Media, the show where we talk about some of our favorite games and movies. Today, I'm joined by Brandy Walker to talk about classic games, and more specifically, Mario. So stick around. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Brandy Walker to talk about some classic gaming franchises. Brandy, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well. So when you think of classic games, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Okay, for classic games, I gotta go way back to the original, or second original, I guess. Donkey Kong was the first appearance of Mario,
Yes,
but
of course.
the original NES system with the original Mario. I have so many memories of that, of playing that game, sitting in front of the TV at home, just for hours playing the very first game. And now Mario's come a long way since then, but I have excessive memories and fond ones of beating those levels and thinking they were just the greatest thing ever when I first started playing that game.
Yeah, so I didn't have an NES, but there was a game for the original Game Boy. It was Super Mario World, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought the original Mario was. I think they're very similar level-wise, but it was in that weird, like, green Game Boy color.
Oh.
You know, like it didn't have, like, Mario didn't have his white overalls. He didn't have his, or whatever color overall. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have colored hats. He just was green in various shades of green. But yeah, Mario just is incredible. I don't know how, I can't believe that some people haven't played it, you know? I'm getting a little lost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you can see, this is the original Mario, like the gameplay. And I remember getting to these levels when you get right to the castle here, when you got to the big castle, that was a big accomplishment. And then but looking back, remembering these levels being so much harder than they are, you know, when you first start playing. I mean, I first started playing this, I was like 6 years old. So imagine a 6-year-old thinking this is difficult, which it is. But now looking at it with how far Mario has come since then, this is probably the simplest task you could complete to playing Mario.
The thing is, though, I'd be like, I don't know when the last time you played this was, but it actually is really difficult. And that's kind of like one of the points of like classic games is they couldn't fit a lot of content on a cartridge.
Yeah.
So they made it really, really hard so that you'd play it for longer, right?
Yeah.
If you were able to just blow through the original Mario game in like a couple hours, it wouldn't be worth the price of the cartridge.
I feel like nowadays they certainly have, they've progressed with, there's a lot more things to do in each level, whereas here it was just get from beginning to end. And in the original, you know, you had all this just point A to point B, and now there's like find stuff in every level, and you have to complete these tasks in each level, and you don't have that same, you know, just point A to point B. You're trying to find things and do things, and there's a little bit more accomplishments you have to get, and then there's also like a task bar. And so these games come with like this whole complete all these tasks, and you didn't even realize you weren't completing them. So you have to go back and find stuff.
Yeah, I'd say like Mario through the years has definitely evolved, especially with like Mario 64. That's when you really started to see it's like you'd have multiple tasks in each level, you know, like collect all the red coins to unlock the star, or, you know, beat the race to get that star. I think there's like varying amounts of stars per level, but you could have like eight stars in one area, right? So yeah, it's really changed. My favorite, I guess it's considered a classic now. I've been thinking about the GameCube a lot lately, which came out in 2001. Right? So over 20 years ago, it's a little hard to believe. I remember opening it on Christmas.
I won't tell you when the NES came out then.
Yeah, let's not. My concept of time is like so skewed, but Super Mario Sunshine is one of my favorites. That one was a little bit different. I guess they were trying to get a one-up from Mario 64. It was 3D still, obviously, but you had like a water pack on your back, and you'd have to like spray enemies with it and stuff. It was really like, Mario has been to so many different places, you know, gameplay wise, and just it's such a massive like behemoth of a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, so my first Mario was the NES system, and I didn't get introduced into Mario again up until I got the Nintendo DS, which came with the Mario Kart, which was a whole new gaming level of Mario, and it has only progressed into this huge, huge thing. And Mario Kart is probably my very favorite game to play.
Yeah.
You can just, well, you play your family, you can play your friends. I mean, you go online and
it gets pretty competitive too. And like, yeah, Mario Kart, I remember the DS one was great. The one on the Wii was great. But I remember Mario Kart on the Game Boy Advance. And it was like I can carry Mario Kart around in my pocket.
Yeah.
You know, that was amazing.
I think too, they've changed Mario. So it was beating these levels, but now they're coming out with these newer and different games. So they came out with Paper Mario recently, and there's 2 separate games of Paper Mario. But then they also had this Mario Odyssey, which was Mario gameplay on a whole other level. There was no time limits. There was nothing. It was just do what you can to get all the checkpoints and beat the levels. And I could never quite get into that one. But I do have family and friends who are quite big fans of it.
Yeah, I played Mario Odyssey, and since it's on the Switch, it's like you're getting that console level, that console quality of Mario. But again, you can take it with you, right? Like that same feeling of having Mario Kart on the Game Boy Advance, you know, or the original Mario on the Game Boy with the 4 AA batteries, you know. But yeah, having a full-fledged Mario game, and yeah, they really changed things up. You know, you could take control of enemies by throwing your hat on them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, since we're talking about games, like what was your absolute favorite Mario and all the Marios that have come out through the years?
I think definitely Sunshine. Because like the GameCube is what really got me into gaming. Like I didn't have Nintendo consoles other than handhelds before that. I had a Sega Genesis. Mario 64 was fun, but the GameCube, just the level of gameplay and visual quality. Like it's funny thinking about the visual quality of a GameCube today. You know, you've got like 4K HD graphics and stuff.
Yeah, I think people fail to realize that as those things progressed, while they were coming out, they were really great. Looking back 25, 35, 40 years now, the quality of the original looks awful. But back then it was very new and it was very exciting and it was very cool, you know. So I mean, you see people now going, wow, that doesn't look that great. Well, I'm like, yeah, but it did at the time. And as it's progressed, now it looks amazing, and it's like one of the greatest things to play. But you know, I remember when Super Mario Brothers 3 came out, and you could fly with the little raccoon tail, and that being like the coolest thing when you got the next game.
Yeah. Now this isn't a Mario game, but my biggest like graphics kind of realization was I got the 3D remake of Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. And I played it, and it's like, wow, this looks exactly how I remember. But then I went back and played the original, and his face is like a triangle, you know? And it's like, oh, I guess my memory is like playing with me a little bit here, you know?
Because I think when you see the originals, it looked good at the time to you. So you don't realize it's progressed until you look back at it and you look at the graphics. You're like, wow, that wasn't as great as I thought. But to me, it still looks good because that's what we knew at the time. So you don't really think of it as looking bad. You just compare when you see the new one and then you look back, you're like, oh, I guess it really has gotten better, but you don't think about that when you were playing it to begin with.
Well, even like the original, like on the NES, those graphics were like kind of like mind blowing at the time, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of different factors at play, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't fault the fact that I've spent hours in front of a Nintendo system. I mean, I may have started with the NES and I took a huge break and didn't get back into it until we got the DS, but I've had everything since the DS. The 3DS, the Switch, the Wii, the Wii U, like we've constantly upgraded into the Switch Lite and then the Switch OLED now. So we've stuck into the Mario ever since the DS came out, and we just keep going, and we will level up. Ooh, and you know what another great game is too? Mario Party.
Yes.
That one is a stellar game to play with friends.
So it caused a lot of fights.
It does cause fights, yes. You have to be careful also not to punch out your opponents when playing the game with the Wii U sticks and the Switch sticks, because there's a lot of physicality in the game when you're into the battles. But nothing like a board game to take on your friends.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, I guess that's just about all we have to say about Mario. I mean, you could go on for days, really.
We really could. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Stick around next week when Mish and Kiara talk about Tim Burton. I'm Brad Dundas.
And I'm Brandy Walker.
Stay twisted.
Stay twisted.